Reed has a question. Did the synoptic writers translate Jesus's words from Aramaic to Greek? Does that partially explain why they don't match each other exactly? Because they translated to best explain his teaching. Let me answer the second question first. In the New Testament time, the quotation mark, perfect, direct, word for word quote was not like a practice. It's not like they never did it. It's not like you never ever wrote down word for word what somebody said, but the idea that you had to always word for word, quote somebody was not this super big deal. We do it all the time nowadays. It's part of our culture. It's our writing culture in particular. We often want word for word quotes, exact words. That was not the case back then. The quotation marks themselves literally didn't exist. Okay. So like they don't even have a convention for doing that at the time. So that could easily explain differences in the way things are worded in the Gospels. There was an understandable liberty that, hey, I really heard Jesus. I understood the context of what he was saying, whether they communicate it perfectly. I should say they can communicate it perfectly, but without always using the exact same words because they understand what he was really saying. Another explanation of different wording for, say you have in the Gospel, Jesus says this phrase here, and he says it slightly different in like Matthew and Luke or something. Another explanation for that is that Jesus taught for 3 years and he taught on a circuit. Now, circuit teachers, traveling teachers, or what they call itinerant teachers, they teach the same material over and over again in different audiences. Now, even an itinerant teacher who teaches the exact same thing over and over again, they will change their wording all the time. That's normal, that's custom, that's standard. So when we have in the 4 Gospels, Jesus making statements and there's this similar wording, but slightly different, it could be because Jesus sometimes said it that way. Sometimes he didn't. That's maybe he said it 8 different ways and we have 2 of them represented in the Gospels. So I think that'd be fine as well. Now, let me come back to what I find to be a super interesting question. Did they translate Jesus's words from Aramaic, the popular language of the time for the Jews, to Greek? I think the answer is no. I mean, there's probably occasions where Jesus was speaking in Aramaic and they translated that for us into Greek, so that I shouldn't say entirely no. But a lot of what Jesus taught, it seems like he may have taught it in Greek. And there's a scholar I can point you to who's done work on this, and his name is Dr. Peter Williams. And he works with Tyndale House. He's like the president, I think, of Tyndale House. And I've been really grateful for his work on this because I, for a long time, was like, why do we think Jesus couldn't speak Greek? Like, why is it? It's just assumed by scholars all over the place. Like, it's just assumed. And this is what Peter Williams, with his much greater knowledge, has really pointed out. He's like, scholars have just presumed Jesus didn't speak Greek. There is no reason to think he didn't. We have lots of reason to think he did. Jesus was there in Galilee where there's Greek and Jewish interaction going on all the time. Right? The fishermen on Galilee, there's Greek ones, Greek speaking ones, and then Aramaic or Hebrew, however you can argue on that. They're both there. Jesus was a carpenter. They're getting hired for work that they do potentially for Greek speakers. We've even found an ancient sign in Nazareth that was written in what language? Greek. Like, why would the Romans put up a Greek sign in a town where nobody can speak Greek? But Peter Williams has also pointed out in the Sermon on the Mount, when you look at it in Greek, like if you try to take it back to Aramaic, it doesn't work the same way. But if you look at it in Greek, which was very much the common language of the day, it was the most used for that region. It has a rhyming structure in it, the Sermon on the Mount, implying that this was in Greek. You know, when you get to Jesus' statement, his conversation with Nicodemus, that's happening, it seems, actually in Greek in John chapter 3. He talks to Nicodemus, and it seems like the conversation really happened in Greek. Jesus' whole play on the words of born and born again and stuff, it doesn't work in Aramaic. It works in Greek. And it would make sense that Nicodemus, who speaks Greek but also speaks Hebrew or Aramaic, he doesn't want to use that language in case one of the real diehards is walking around and they overhear. So I don't think we have any reason to think Jesus didn't speak Greek. I think we have several good reasons to think he probably did. And Peter probably did, and probably got better at it over time as they continued to preach the gospel. So yeah, check out Peter Williams. If I had a specific paper in mind, I would share it with you. I think that he has a video on it somewhere though.